Welcome to Mental Flight, where bold ideas take off, and untold truths soar beyond the limits of ordinary thinking. Then fasten your mind, you're cleared for takeoff, Trump. Once seen as a man who could bend nations with just his words, has now faced a moment of sheer humiliation. South Africa has made it crystal clear. No ties, no compromise, no deals with the United States. For decades, Washington has assumed its influence stretched across every corner of the globe. But this time, things took a different turn. It wasn't just politics. It was pride. It was sovereignty. The refusal struck a nerve because it wasn't hidden behind soft diplomacy or vague words. South Africa stood tall and bluntly rejected what it saw as dishonesty and manipulation. That kind of defiance carries a powerful weight in today's world. It shows that not every nation is willing to bow down, no matter how strong the pressure from the White House may be. And for Trump, a man who thrives on dominance and control, being pushed back like this is more than just a political setback. It is personal. This moment also speaks to something bigger happening across the world. Countries are waking up, are tired of being treated like junior partners, tired of broken promises, tired of being told what to do by global powers who think money and threats are enough to keep everyone in line. South Africa's refusal is more than just a diplomatic no. It is a message to the world that standing firm, even in front of the most powerful nation on earth, is possible. You can almost feel the shift in the air. It's bold, it's risky, but it's refreshing. There's a sense of pride, of courage, of a nation writing its own story without waiting for approval. And for those watching, whether in Africa or anywhere else, it's a reminder that respect cannot be demanded, it must be earned. South Africa's decision to reject stronger ties with the United States has stirred both shock and admiration across the globe. For many, it feels like a bold statement of independence, one that comes after years of complicated political, economic, and diplomatic relationships between African nations and Western powers. To really understand why this moment matters, you need to step back and see it not just as a political move, but as an emotional one. A declaration of self-respect and dignity by a country that has carried heavy historical burdens. For decades, Africa has been caught in a cycle where powerful Western nations have dictated terms, shaped policies, and used economic leverage to influence decisions. South Africa, as one of the most developed and influential countries on the continent, has often been at the center of these struggles. When leaders in Washington push for alignment, it usually comes with attached conditions that favor the U.S. economy, security strategies, and global image, often leaving African nations with very little say in their own destiny. So, when South Africa chooses to say no, it's not just refusing a handshake, it's breaking a pattern. It's reclaiming its voice. This act of rejection resonates emotionally with millions of Africans, because it's about more than just politics. It's about memory. The memory of colonialism, when outside powers divided up African lands and people as though they were possessions. The memory of apartheid, when South Africans fought tirelessly for dignity, equality, and the right to shape their own future. These memories don't fade, and they fuel today's decisions. South Africa's choice carries echoes of the past, but it also carries the hopes of a new generation youth who are no longer willing to let their countries be treated as pawns in someone else's game. From a global perspective, the rejection sends ripples far beyond Africa. The United States has always tried to position itself as a global leader, but moments like these show that the balance of power is shifting. Countries in the global south, including South Africa, are no longer content to simply follow Western dictates. They are seeking new partnerships, often with nations like China, Russia, or even regional allies within Africa itself. This shift isn't just about economics, it's about pride, self-worth, and the right to choose without being pressured. For ordinary South Africans, the move is seen as refreshing. People are tired of the same old story where powerful nations enter the scene with promises only for those promises to end in disappointment or exploitation. There's a sense of relief in watching their leaders take a stand, a sense of being heard on the world stage. Of course, it also comes with anxiety. Some worry about the economic consequences, since the US remains a giant trading partner and has resources South Africa might need. But for many, the emotional victory outweighs the risks. It's a reminder that dignity sometimes matters more than profit. And if you think about it, this decision speaks to a universal human experience. Haven't we all been in situations where someone more powerful tries to dictate the terms of our lives, whether it's in work, family, or society? There's always that moment of choice. Do you comply for safety and comfort, or do you step back and say no, even if it costs you something? South Africa's rejection of US ties feels like that very human act of drawing a boundary, saying we matter too. It's a message that resonates not only across Africa, but also with people everywhere who have ever felt overshadowed by someone else's power. What makes this even more compelling is the courage it takes. Standing up to a country like the United States isn't easy. There are always risks of sanctions, reduced aid, or diplomatic pressure. Yet courage is often born not in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to face it anyway. South Africa's leaders, by choosing this path, are embodying a kind of courage that many nations quietly admire, but few dare to show. At the same time, this rejection creates space for new conversations. Instead of looking only to the West, South Africa can explore deeper partnerships within Africa itself. Imagine the power of African countries pooling their resources, supporting each other's industries, and building stronger connections with one another instead of depending on outside forces. This vision of African unity is something leaders across the continent have long dreamed of. But moments like this make it feel closer to reality. The emotional undercurrent here is hope. Yes, there is frustration with the old systems and fear of the unknown. But there is also hope for something different. Hope for a future where African voices are not just heard but respected, where decisions are not made in Washington, Brussels. Donald Trump has always been a figure who thrives on strength, dominance, and the projection of power. Throughout his political career, he has sold himself as the man who could bend the world to his will, negotiator who could bring opponents to their knees, and the leader who could restore America's image of superiority. But every once in a while, reality pushes back. The recent developments that left Trump facing diplomatic humiliation show that even the loudest voices and the toughest postures can meet walls that refuse to crumble. This isn't just about politics. It's about ego, image, and the deeply human feeling of being forced to swallow pride. For Trump, humiliation doesn't come quietly. It happens in the spotlight, where cameras capture his every word and critics dissect his every move. In this case, the humiliation was tied to international diplomacy, where strength isn't measured by how loudly you speak, but by how much respect you command. When nations like South Africa publicly refuse ties or push back against America's influence, it cuts straight into Trump's carefully crafted narrative. This isn't the script he wanted. He wanted applause, submission, and recognition of American dominance. Instead, what he got was rejection. Rejection on the global stage is a bitter pill for anyone to swallow. Imagine it for a moment. A man who built his persona on winning suddenly finds himself framed as the one who lost. A man who constantly says America comes first is suddenly watching other nations say, we'll go our own way. For ordinary people, this might feel like embarrassment at work or in social circles, but for Trump, it plays out in front of the world. The word humiliation carries weight here because it's not just about policy, it's about personal pride. The very thing Trump holds closest to his heart. Diplomatic humiliation also has layers that sting differently. It's not like losing an election where one opponent defeats you. This kind of humiliation comes from allies, partners, and nations you expected to listen, but who instead chose defiance. It sends a signal that the world is shifting, that America can no longer assume loyalty without earning it, and that Trump's vision of dominance is not shared universally. For someone like him who thrives on control, this kind of public pushback feels like a direct challenge to his authority. It's like trying to command a room only to realize half the audience isn't even listening. What makes this moment resonate more deeply is that Trump's supporters often see him as untouchable, a fighter who never backs down and never loses. Yet humiliation is a profoundly human experience. one that strips away bravado and shows vulnerability even when someone tries hard to hide it. Watching Trump face this moment is like watching a mask slip just slightly, revealing that even the strongest performers can't always control the stage. It reminds us that no one, no matter how powerful, is immune to the sting of rejection. The global stage is unforgiving, and humiliation doesn't just bruise egos, it shifts perceptions. Other leaders see it, and they calculate differently. Ordinary citizens across the world see it, and they form new opinions about America's standing. It's as if the aura of invincibility that Trump tried to project has cracks, and once cracks appear, they're hard to hide. For someone who built a brand on winning, this kind of damage goes beyond politics. It touches reputation, and reputation in diplomacy is everything. And let's be honest, there's also a kind of irony in all this. Trump has often been the one dishing out humiliation, mocking rivals, belittling allies, and using harsh language to assert dominance. To now be on the receiving end of that same emotion is almost poetic. It's like watching the bully suddenly get pushed back, not by someone stronger, but by someone who simply refuses to bow down. That reversal carries emotional weight. It reminds us that power is never absolute, and arrogance can be met with resistance in the most unexpected places. For many people watching, this moment also stirs mixed emotions. Some feel satisfaction in seeing a man who has often acted brash and uncompromising finally face consequences. Others feel discomfort because humiliation, even when it happens to someone powerful, carries a sting that's universally understood. Everyone knows what it feels like to be embarrassed, to have plans fall apart, or to lose face in front of others. The world we live in today is not the same as it was a decade ago. Slowly, steadily, and now more boldly. Countries are moving away from the idea that they must always depend on the United States or a handful of Western powers to guide their future. This shift toward global independence is not just about politics or economics. It's about dignity. It's about nations wanting to stand on their own 2 feet and say, we can take care of ourselves. We can make our own choices. And we don't need to ask for permission. For years, the balance of power tilted heavily toward Washington, London, Paris, and Brussels. If a nation wanted international support, loans, or even recognition, it had to play by their rules. But times are changing. Countries in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and even parts of Europe are beginning to chart their own paths. They are choosing new partners, building alliances that don't revolve around Washington, and exploring homegrown solutions to their problems. That is the heart of independence, not isolation, but freedom of choice. It's a powerful thing to watch. Take a moment to imagine how it must feel for smaller nations that were once treated as pawns in a giant chessboard of geopolitics. For decades, their leaders were pressured into agreements, debt traps, and compromises that only served foreign interests. But now, those same nations are standing in front of the world saying, we're no longer playing by your rules. Courage in that, and there's also a sense of rebirth. It's as if after years of being silenced, voices are finally being heard. The beauty of this global independence movement is that it doesn't look the same everywhere. In some places, it means breaking away from military alliances that no longer serve the nation's best interests. In others, it means rejecting trade deals that only favor the wealthy elite while exploiting the poor. For others still, it's about creating new regional partnerships, where neighbors support each other rather than waiting for a stamp of approval from faraway capitals. This is not just politics, it's humanity in action. It's people realizing they deserve better and leaders daring to give it to them. Of course, this shift doesn't come without resistance. Powerful nations do not like losing control, and they are not willing to quietly watch their influence fade. They use pressure, threats, and sometimes even chaos to remind smaller nations of who's in charge. But here's where the difference lies. Today, people are no longer afraid in the way they used to be. Social media, education, and shared experiences have made populations more aware. They see the world differently now. They know that independence is possible, and they are demanding it. And isn't that something deeply human? To want to grow, to want to stand tall, to want to prove to yourself and the world that you can do it on your own. Nations are just like people in this sense. When a young person grows up, they want independence from their parents, not because they hate them, but because they want to make their own mark. Similarly, nations want independence from old powers, not because they seek conflict, but because they want respect, fairness, and equality on the world stage. This global shift also brings new opportunities for collaboration. Instead of a one-size-fits-all world order dictated by a few, we are seeing multipolarity where several centers of power coexist. That means African nations trading more with each other, Asian countries forging deeper partnerships, Latin America stepping forward with its own voice. This diversity of power is healthier for the world because it balances influence and prevents any one nation from controlling the fate of all others. It's like having a marketplace with many stalls instead of one seller dictating prices. Competition creates fairness. For the ordinary citizen, this shift may feel distant, wrapped up in the world of diplomacy and international headlines. But in truth, it affects everyday lives. When nations have independence, they can negotiate better trade deals, which means cheaper food on the table. They can resist foreign interference, which means policies are designed for the people, not for outsiders. They can invest in their own industries, which means more jobs and opportunities for young people. Independence is not just a political concept, it's something that changes families, futures, and generations. Still, it's not easy. The road to independence comes with challenges. Nations must learn to rely on themselves, to manage their resources wisely, and to resist temptations of corruption or division that foreign powers often exploit. There will be setbacks, no doubt. But the difference today is that the desire for independence is stronger than the fear of failure. That courage, that refusal to be controlled gives this global shift its strength. The rise of global independence is also reshaping identity. Nations are looking inward and rediscovering their own cultures, values, and histories. For so long, many countries were told that their traditions were backward, their systems outdated, their ways inferior. But now, they are reclaiming pride in who they are. They are blending tradition with modernity in ways that make sense for them, not for outsiders. That's the soul of independent, owning your story instead of letting someone else write it for you. When you look at this movement from a human perspective, it's inspiring. It's a story of courage, of breaking chains, of finally breathing freely after years of suffocation. You can feel the determination in the speeches of leaders, the pride in the voices of ordinary people, and the energy in the streets where young people demand a better tomorrow. This isn't just politics. Hope, it's struggle. It's humanity moving forward. Global independence isn't about one country winning and another losing. It's about balance. It's about building a world where no nation has to beg, where no people have to live under the shadow of another's decisions, and where dignity is shared equally. The shift we're seeing today is not perfect. It's not complete, and it's not without flaws. But it is real, and it is growing stronger every day. If you found this story eye-opening, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give it a like, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Your voice matters here, and by joining in, you'll always stay ahead of the stories the world tries to overlook.